Hello and welcome to the latest in this very sporadic series known as Program Breakdown. Today we're going to be looking at what is probably one of the most popular powerlifting, if not the most popular powerlifting program of all time. That is the standard Westside barbell template that has been popularized by Louis Simmons of Westside Barbell in the States during the early 2000s. We're going to discuss what the program is, what the concepts of the programs are, how it's put together, pros and cons of the program. So hopefully by the end of this 15 to 20 minute talk, or however long it ends up being, you'll have an appreciation for what the program entails. Okay, so there's two kind of key concepts that you're going to need to grasp about the Westside approach. The first of all is maximum effort. So this is a quote taken from an article on SugdenBarbell.com. There's umpteen articles online about this program. It's just that Sugden Barbell was the first one that came up on my search, was the one I used to quote. The goal is to carry out at least 3 sets of 1 repetition using 90% or over of your 1 RM for that day. Each session, try to break your PR from your previous efforts on that lift. You will probably need to rest 3 to 5 minutes between your heaviest sets. So basically the way it's going to work is, let's say you have a 6-week block set out, and day 2 of the program is going to be your max effort session for squat and deadlift. So on week 1, you're going to use a squat variation. Week 2, you're going to use a deadlift variation. Week 3, you're going to use a squat variation. Week 4, you use a deadlift variation, and so on and so forth. The idea is, if it's the first time you've ever used that exercise, so if it's the first time you've ever done box squat, you're just going to work up and go as heavy as you can that day. So that might be as heavy as you can for 3 reps, 2 reps, or 1 rep. It just needs to be a maximum effort that is above 90% of RM for that movement. The next week, you're going to do the same, say, for rack deadlifts. So that is pulling from a certain height off pins. And again, same process. That week, on week 2, you're going to work up to the heaviest 1 to 3 RM. So if you look below, there's 3 examples of squat variations and 3 examples of deadlift variations that you can run in a 6-week wave of the Westside template. So you could go high box squats, rack deadlift, parallel box squats, deficit deadlifts, low box squats, and reverse band deadlifts as a 6-week block. So if it's your first run through the program, you would just set watermarks on these exercises. So if you repeated the same wave, you would then have targets to beat on your ME day. So if you do 170 on your high box squat week 1, then you know week 7, when it comes back in the program, you've got a target of lifting more than 170, or at least more on a 2RM or 3RM basis if you want to work it out on a calculator. But basically, every week you do the same thing for bench press as well. You're going to do different bench variations. So let's say you have a 3 exercise. You go bench press, board press, incline, bench press. Every 3 weeks, you just keep running that to max effort and try to beat your PBs on it. You can go 5 variations of bench press, 6 variations of bench press. You can do as many or as little variations as you want. But the idea in the Westside template is that you seesaw between squat and deadlift on a weekly basis, and you're never using the same exercise for maximum effort 2 weeks in a row. It'll just stop you from stalling out. Okay, so the next key concept is dynamic effort. So again, quoting from that article, the goal of dynamic effort sessions is to develop speed. Therefore, the emphasis throughout the sets is to move the bar quickly on the concentric part of the exercise, the way at which the bar can be still moved explosively. This should be carried out on a squat deadlift variation as well as a bench variation. Bands or chains are often used to emphasize building speed towards lockout. So typically what you'll get is you'll have a 3-week phase of using these percentages. So if you look down below, you'll see week 1, 2, and 3. That's the typical straight weight cycle. So the first 3 weeks of the template for bench press, you'll do 10 doubles of 50%, 10 doubles of 55%, 10 doubles of 60%, with 60 to 90 seconds rest as the kind of main focus of that workout that week. And you'll do the exact same for squat and deadlift. And the way it's going to work is any week you do a maximum effort lift. So if you do a maximum effort squat on week 1, then you'll do a dynamic effort deadlift on week 1 of the program. And they're just going to flip-flop. So you'll always squat and bench once. You always squat and deadlift once in the training week at least, or at least a variation of them, and you will be benching or doing bench variations twice a week, every week on this template. So those are the two kind of key components to the Westside template, and the two things that kind of have been, these two, dynamic effort and maximum effort, have been popularized by this program. So that's the kind of the main key elements of the program. So for assistance, upper body, basically you're going to split yourself into 3 sections. You're looking at the triceps, just because obviously it's specific to bench press. These will be trained for a high weight, low volume manner on the dynamic bench day, and then you'll use a high volume, low weight assistance on the max effort bench day. So when you're going heavy on bench, you're going to be doing bodybuilding work for the press and muscles. Same thing's going to carry through for shoulders. And when you're doing the dynamic or the light bench effort, you're going to do strength work for the shoulders and the triceps. So a strength movement for the triceps is a board press. A bodybuilding movement for the triceps is push downs. For shoulders, a strength movement would be a barbell shoulder press, and a bodybuilding movement would be front raises, side raises. And the lats and the upper back, they're always trained for volume. And they suggest on this template that you use 1 row and 1 vertical pull in your programming. I'll probably put more in myself, but that's besides the point. Assistance for the lower body, this is put into hamstrings, low back, and abdominals. And again, it's the same idea when we're doing a maximum effort. So on your ME lower body day, or your maximum effort lower body day, hamstrings and low back and abdominals are going to be trained for volume and low weight. So body weight alternatives. So an example of a hamstring low intensity would be a glute ham raise. Glute ham raise is their preferred hamstring exercise on the Westside template. A low back example would be body weight hyperextension, and a low weight abdominal would be hanging leg raise or Roman chair sit up. And then for strength, a low back option would be SLDL. Hamstring option might be heavy leg curls, or alternative as well, SLDL, or deficit deadlift. And for abdominals, like a heavy option could be like a weighted sit up or a heavy side bend or something like that. So what's that look like in a week of training? So let's say this is week 1 of the program. The first session, Sunday, we're going to go with is dynamic effort bench press. You'll do your 10 sets of 2 at 50% of 1 RM, like we discussed. And then you're going to move on to your heavy assistance. So on this program, we're doing rack lockouts, 4 sets of 5. Military press, 4 sets of 5, and lat pull downs, 4 sets of 5 heavy. Next is Monday. We're doing max effort squat deadlift session. So we're doing our deadlift variation. On here, we're just doing straight up deadlift, and we're working up to a max 1 to 3 rep, looking for a PB. If we haven't done deadlift before, we're just going to go as heavy as we can. Hamstrings, we're training them glute ham raise, 3 sets of 6, lower intensity. Lower back, we're looking at reverse hyperextensions, 3x10, and abdominals, we're looking weighted sit-ups, 3x10. And Wednesday, max effort bench session. So we're using our bench press movement for max effort. This is 2 board press, so bring it down to 2 boards and up again. And again, we're looking for a max effort between 1 to 3 reps, and that's going to represent a personal best, hopefully. Or if it's not, we're looking for a personal best. our personal record, we are looking for as heavy as we can on that movement. It was the first time. And again, we're just doing our bodybuilding stuff. So for triceps, we're doing barbell tricep extension, 6 sets of 10. Shoulders, we're doing the rear dumbbell raises, 310s. Lats, we're doing seated row, 5 sets of 8. And then finally, on the Friday, we're looking at dynamic effort for squat or deadlift. So we deadlifted in our ME, so we're going to squat in our dynamic effort. So that's going to be box squat. We're going to do that for 10 sets of 2 at 50% over 1 RM, and 60 to 90 seconds break. Trying to move the bar as quickly as we can through the eccentric portion of the lift. Lower back and hamstrings, we're going to hit those with stiff leg deadlifts, 5 sets of 5, nice and heavy, strength element. And then abdominals, we're going to do hanging leg raise, 4 sets of 8. Okay, so that's pretty much the program put together, at least the meat and potato of the programs. You now should understand what maximum effort is. You now should understand what dynamic effort is. You should understand how you offset the weight of the main exercise with your assistants, and how the program kind of melds together. And basically, being a template, you can run it for as short as long as you can. It's not a 12-week program where you're going to start with percentage X in week 1, session 1, and end up with percentage Y in week 12, session 60. It's just something you can run over and over again. So, what are the pros to this kind of training template? Well, Westside works by allowing you to constantly train with 90% plus percentages without stalling out. The reason you don't stall out because you constantly switch the goalposts. You're always doing a different exercise. Maybe you do the same exercise 1 week in 6, maybe you do it 1 week in 5, maybe you do 1 week in 4, maybe you do 1 week in 3. That's down to you and how you put the template together, but the idea is you're not constantly trying to go heavier and heavier and heavier on the same movement, which inevitably is going to lead to stalling out. They reckon after about 3 weeks on the same movement, that's when you're going to start to see yourself regress or stall. So if you're the sort of person that likes going heavy and you just want to lift as heavy as you can week in, week out, then it's a pretty good program because it's going to give you the structure to allow yourself to do that and still hopefully progress. Emphasis on bar speed, the use of boxes, chains, and bands make this an excellent equipped lifters program. Due to the fact that equipment will make you stronger at the bottom of the lift and weaker at the top, which is the reverse of a raw lifter. So, for example, in a squat, you need to, as you sit down, you need to start actively pulling yourself down. It sounds weird, but you'll understand it if you've ever been in briefs or a squat suit. It's actually difficult to get the depth. It can take a lot of weight to get the depth. And once you're at depth, standing up's probably the easiest part of the movement. And then the next hardest part of the movement is going to be locking that weight out. The use of chains and bands kind of mimic that, as in the lightest part of the movement with a band or a chain is the bottom, and the heaviest part of the movement is lockout. So it's got the same kind of transfer as using equipment does. Also, it gives you an opportunity to have different PBs for briefs only, suit with a belt, suit with a belt, straps down, suit with a belt, straps up, wraps. You can use different levels of equipment can also be used as your ME options, which works really well, building towards a meet for anyone who's done equip lifting before. And there's no two ways about it. This is the most successful multiply lifter program of all time. This has probably produced the most world records and the most world champions when it comes to the sport of multiply powerlifting. And I think within the GPC, SPF, whatever it is, this has been the predominant program for a long time. And it obviously gets results within that circumstance of multiply powerlifting. It's also a very common and popular program within single ply powerlifting as well, and also in raw lifting. That's something I might challenge. The program never gets boring because something is always changing week to week. So, if you're sort of person that doesn't like lifting just the traditional lifts with some assistance thrown in, you don't like just doing squat all the time, then this is a good program to go to because it'll keep you entertained. Cons of the program: the lack of consistency and focus on the competition lifts makes skill mastery very difficult. So if you're a raw lifter, you can take away some ideas from this. Like if you train 6 times a week, having variations on lifts is a good idea. If you train heavy all the time, having a sort of structure that changes the goalposts is a good idea from now and again. But if you're a novice, this is not a very good program because it won't let you develop the skill that you're going to require within the 3 competition lifts. And if you're an unsupported lifter, then I would state the need for getting your technique right within, or just getting efficient within those 3 movements. And the better and more efficient you are those 3 movements, the heavier lifts the heavier you're gonna lift at the end of the day. Constantly striving for personal best week in, week out definitely can lead to lifters taking the easy route, and that is to say, if you want to get that personal best, you might just not quite reach depth. You might lift your arse up off the bench. You might not quite lock it out properly. You might start using straps in your deadlifts when you normally wouldn't. You might start really liking using like knee wraps and the whole 9 yards, and squatting deliberately high and using a mono just because you can lift more weight. From what you'll have seen with the multiply lifting and the state of like the depths they go to in some of the federations, that attitude of just constantly wanting to lift more and more and more has led the sport down the worn hole of where it's at in the minute. Now, where you like that and that's your thing, fine. I personally wouldn't agree with it, and I do think this kind of mentality what leads to that sort of shortcuts and those sort of like short, sharp responses. That's maybe a separate aside, but it definitely, this sort of lifting can lead to some people or some personality traits taking shortcuts to lift more weight. Bands, chains, and boxes don't really transfer so well to unsupported or unequipped lifting, as well as they do equipped lifting, because they don't mimic the same kind of strength curve that there is in an unequipped free squat or an unequipped free bench press. It's not really the same sort of movement. The weakest part of the movement tends to be the bottom of the movement for deadlift, squat, and for bench press, or the sticking point, which is again as anatomically specific to the person. Which happens in different parts of the movement for different people. Like we said before, though, the bands, chains, and the boxes do offer variants that can, within the correct structure, can be very useful for a raw lifter. So there's a lot of good ideas within Westside, but I would caution raw lifters in just taking it up wholesale, because it's designed. You have to remember this is designed for multiply lifting specifically, and you can't really explain it on a post-it note. So it's not an easy concept to grab. I can't write out the cycle for you within the space of like a 3x3 inch bit of paper, which means I always think the best ideas can be explained very simply, and the best programs can be explained very simply, which this kind of falls down at that. So hopefully you've taken away a better understanding of 531. The pros and cons at the end are obviously they're coloured a lot with my own opinions, but that's what the channel's for. It's for opinions alongside of information. So hopefully you're taking something away from this. If there's any programs you'd like me to run through, maybe leave a comment below. Any discussions you want to get into regarding the programming, just get yourself down in that YouTube comment section. Let's have at it. Until next time, this is Mark, castironstrength.com, signing off.